Welcome back to Dan's Pro Shop, everybody. Why don't you have a seat? Relax. Let me tell you a story. Now, this one is one of my absolute favorites. This one is about a devilishly handsome young man and his aspirations for something more. For the longest time, this young man has been absolutely addicted to purchasing, using, and just attaining more and more tools. But at the same time, this young man also discovered that there is a difficulty in retaining one's tools. For some strange reason, all the other fellows and knights in the land just had to have what this young man had. So what did he do? He resorted to anything he could think of to make his tools distinct and stand out from anyone else's. Spray paint, engraving, even welding his name or identification on said tools. But let me tell you, boys and girls, we got a better way. Bam! Xtool has a better option. In case you guys missed the first video on this Xtool D1 system, be sure to check it out up here. After this one, obviously. But they have released an IR laser. That means infrared. This thing is super intense and way more powerful than the original one. This gives us the ability to etch on different metals. Steel, chrome-plated stuff, aluminum, copper, whatever you want. But either way, let's dig into this thing and see what it's all about. So guys, like I mentioned, this is the infrared laser module brought to you by Xtool. And if you guys saw the previous video about the D1 Pro laser system, this is an add-on module that I think absolutely takes this thing to the next level. Like, quite literally. In the package here, obviously you get the infrared module and you get a jacked up power supply. I think this takes you up to like 25 or 26 volt DC or something. But either way, this thing requires a lot more gigawatts, more power. So whenever you purchase this thing, it comes with everything that you need to plug and play into your D1 Pro. Now that you guys kind of know what's going on with this thing, let's go over to the existing D1 in its OE configuration. And I've even done a little upgrading on that thing since the last time you guys have saw it. So let's check out what's going on over there. So you guys might know, you might not, but the factory laser that this system comes with has the ability to have an air assist, and that is purchasable from Xtool. They have like this little 120 plug-in, basically air compressor, and it comes with some pneumatic stuff and yada yada yada. But if you guys know anything about me, I pride myself in doing stuff myself, and let's be honest, 9 times out of 10, whenever you make something yourself, it's usually better. So I went about this and I saw the options that were available and what it can do. So if you're doing this in a shop, chances are you have an air compressor anyway, because most of the stuff in your shop runs on air. Well, maybe not so much anymore, but regardless, I'm sure that you guys probably have access to air in your shop. So what I did is just got a regulator, put a male air check on it, I plug it into my shop air, neck this thing down to, I don't know, 6-8 psi. So this is a really small regulator. I think it caps out at like 25 or something. That way on the gauge you can really dial down what you want. On the outside here, on the the regulated port of the regulator, I simply have a quarter turn ball valve. So not only can I regulate the pressure of the air, but I can regulate the flow of the air. Then you guys see here, I have a 1/4 inch piece of polyurethane tubing, and that clips in right to the factory port on the laser that it comes with. I'll bring you guys in on the other side so you can see more what's going on about this. But dude, this absolutely changed everything. It greatly increases the efficiency of your cut because it turns this thing into like a low-grade plasma cutter. Now, please don't misconstrue that. This thing is not a CNC plasma cutter. But the idea behind it is the same. you have some kind of something, in this case a laser, removing material just like a plasma cutter would. And then we have an air assist to remove the debris from the arc or laser. So you can get through a lot more stuff a lot more quickly. And specifically, whenever we're cutting through wood, it really gets rid of that burn mark around your cut area, because not only are we removing debris effectively from the cut area, but it's keeping it cool too. And if you do this correctly and pay mind to how you route your wires and everything, like, take your time with this if you decide to go this route. Like, I just took this regulator and mounted it right on the side of the rail here. I felt like that was a good application, and it's been working great ever since. But like I said, whenever you're cutting stuff, that airflow that goes around the head of the laser, it just greatly increases your productivity and honestly the quality of the cut that you get. Now, I know I'm rambling about this one, and the whole point of this is the IR laser. Yeah, that is a totally different game, because now we're not limited to like non-ferrous stuff like wood, paper, cardboard, whatever. I mean, yeah, you guys saw me do these business cards in the last one. Well, this is anodized aluminum. So the laser wasn't cutting the aluminum, it was just removing the anodizing from the aluminum. So yeah, it's cool, you can do stuff like that, but whenever it comes to etching metal, this thing really doesn't have the gusto. You know, it kind of just like reflects off the surface and really doesn't give you anything. But this IR module, more power. Let's go through and I can show you guys better this air setup on the head, and we'll go over the simple procedure of switching this to the new one. Couldn't be any easier, I promise you. So here's a slightly better look of the air setup that I have going on here. Instead of using that OE option of a air pump or whatever they're using, I just took that regulator into a valve, a hose, into the side of the factory fitting that this thing comes with. So like I said, in case you guys are wondering, this is just a regular 1/4 inch piece of polyurethane tubing. This might be a little bit too much, but it gives you plenty of room for this thing to move in the X and Y, and I have absolutely no issues with this thing binding up. But because this air jet goes right around the nozzle, it just makes everything so much cleaner. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and change the head to the new one. So guys, this process is super straightforward and really easy. If you have the air set up, you just push this tab here on the top of the fitting, your hose pulls right out. Set that off to the side. If you don't have that, it's even easier. You don't need to mess with it at all. Now on the side here, there is a locking tab that allows this thing to come in and out. That's how you adjust your Z on the laser itself. Now on the back here, there's the plug that goes into this thing. This can be a little cumbersome and difficult, so take your time, make sure you don't break the plug. But there's a tab back here. You undo and pull up out of the plug in the back of the module. Once you get that all taken out, you can slide the wiring out of this little I don't know, retaining tab on top here. That's just what keeps your wire management in check. That's all that's involved with taking this thing apart. Now we can put the new one in its place. Look at this big mamma jamma, huh? You can tell just by the sheer size of it that this thing means business. I mean, look at the difference here. This is the OE one that it comes with, and this is the upgraded IR module. It has the exact same setup on the back. So this track indexes with the one on the XY, and the plug is exactly the same. It still has an internal cooling fan. It has the clip on top for the wires. The only thing that's really different is it doesn't have this guard thing here on the bottom because the light is more direct. I'll get to that in a minute. And it also does not have the airport option like this one does. But honestly, for the amount of power this thing has, you really don't need it. And also, just like the original one, there is a depth gauge. But I have concerns about that we'll get to. When it comes to installing the IR module, you just simply do the exact same thing in reverse. We take the plug here, install until you hear the click. Going together is much easier than coming apart. Make sure you put your wiring through the little cradle up there on top. And there you have it. Tighten down your jam nut and this thing's ready to rock. The only thing that we have to do is change a few little things on the programming to ensure that this thing works properly, and we're going to have to set the Z height on this thing away from our material. But like I said, we'll get to that. All right, now we're over here at the PC, and once again, guys, please forgive my lack of, I don't know, digital knowledge. I really don't know how to do the screen share thing to actually put the screen of the computer on the video, but I think this is good enough that you guys will get the point. So we are using the Lightburn software for the D1 Pro. Now, if you guys saw the first video, you know that there are options to use either the Xtool programming or the Lightburn. In this particular case, I used the Lightburn and everything's been doing great. Now, I've gone over how to put things in your cutting area. So right here, I just have simple letters, Dan's Pro Shop. And whenever you put something in your cutting area, it then opens up how and where and how intense and everything your cut actually is. So for the new infrared module, there is something that you have to change to make sure that this works. Whenever you have something in your cutting field, this part up here in the cuts and layers menu becomes clickable. Go up here and double click this. This brings up a sub menu with more options on how your laser works. The thing that we're concerned with right here, constant power mode. This does not need to be on whenever you're using the original laser, but whenever you install the IR laser, this has to be on. This enables that thing to have juice the entire time it's running, and this is absolutely crucial. It will not work unless you do this. So make sure that your constant power mode is on. Once you change that, you have to click OK, and then it'll save your settings. Now, once you're sure that you have that done, everything else pretty much operates exactly the same. You frame out what you want to do, you can set your origins, you can set your feeds and speeds and intensity and everything that you would do regularly before. You can change between just the line on the outside, you can fill your entire project, you can offset fill it. There is so much stuff that you can do. Really, this operates very similarly to like the paint program on everybody's PC. It's really user-friendly, and it's really not that difficult to learn, I promise. Now let's get over to the laser head and set something up and actually do it. Now guys, like I had mentioned a moment ago, this thing has that little tab thing on the bottom here to help you set up your Z distance, your up and down, the distance away from the head of the laser to your work piece. However, this thing is for the birds. It doesn't work at all. As far as I'm concerned, just pretend it's not even there. It does not work, not even close. The original laser, this guy, the one it comes with, the focus aspect of this laser is a lot more forgiving than this one. You probably have a solid, I don't know, probably 10 mil that you can work with to be closer or further away from your workpiece. This one, you have about 1 or 2. The focus on this laser has to be spot on for it to work. And believe me, you will notice this because there is a function in the program that allows you to force on the laser, like you can fire it intentionally without actually running a program. And you can play with the Z, the up and down on this thing, and you will notice immediately when it's in the correct spot. And if you are just a skosh, I mean a hair too low or too high, it will not work. You get that perfect white light. It sounds like sizzling bacon, like laying down a good weld, and you know you're in the right spot. But it can be incredibly tricky to do. I have found a way around this. Now guys, take this for what it's worth, but I spent the time to do this, so you don't have to. There is like that perfect happy middle that we're trying to find. And I have found that from the base of this thing, not from the laser head, from the base of the main module to the top of your workpiece needs to be almost exactly 20 mil. So do yourself a favor, walk around your shop, go through the house, whatever you need to do, and find something that is 20 millimeters high. And in this case, this just happens to be a Victor torch box. But I got a bunch of these laying around because I go through a bunch of torch tips. But lucky me, the height of this thing is exactly 20 millimeters, or it's like 19.99. It's close enough. So whenever I go to set my Z height between the bottom of this IR module and the top of my workpiece, I simply set this on top of it, and then I run my laser down until it touches. There you go. There is your 20 millimeter. It may not be spot on, but boy, this is way closer than that thing on the side gets you to. Trust me, it's worth doing this step. Now, without any further ado, let's throw something metal in here and get some sparks flying, shall we? Take this guy for example, a regular old 10 millimeter ratcheting wrench. Now, like we were talking about that awesome story in the beginning, if you're anything like me and you have tools coming out of your ears, and a lot of those tools are at work or they travel with you, keeping track of your stuff can be difficult. So putting your name or your brand or something on your tools can absolutely be life-changing. And now that we have something like this, man, if you got the time and the ambition, you can make yourself a solid professional looking set of tools with your name, your logo, whatever you want on it. So let's go ahead, rig this thing up, and see what we can do. When it comes to setting things up, like I mentioned, the Z is incredibly particular with this module. So making sure that you have your part flat in respect to the actual machine is super critical. And since we have a weird side profile here on this wrench, like the ratcheting head sticks out further than the main body, I just simply put it up here on a piece of wood so that big part can hang over the end. I'm going to go ahead and throw some painter's tape over the end of this thing to just make sure it stays in place and it doesn't move while we're setting up. There we go. It's not too scientific, but it'll work. It'll at the very least keep this thing from moving around whenever the machine is jogging. And because I have it on a piece of wood here and not physically attached to the table, it gives me the ability to move this thing. So whenever I'm doing my frame out, it's a little bit easier to kind of do. So whenever we go to set this thing up, it's perfectly fine to move this by hand. Like you're not going to hurt anything. With these encoder motors, it's okay to move. Whenever you fire this thing up, it rehomes so it knows where everything is. The only thing we really have left to do before we do the programming part of it is set our Z. So go ahead and find your, whatever you decided it to be, 20 millimeter block, and set your height in between the top of your workpiece and the bottom of the module. So super simple here, guys. There we go. There's my 20 mil between my workpiece and the bottom of the laser. So we will find out real quick if that's sufficient or not. But now let's go back over to the computer, set up what we want it to do, and send it over to this thing. Alrighty guys, you will see here when I power this thing up, it immediately goes right back home. And that is a setting in the Lightburn program. So you don't have to do it that way. I just do it because whenever I leave here, I make sure that I power this thing down. It's just a good idea. Whenever you're not around stuff, just turn it off so you know that's going to happen. Chances are it's not, but either way. So now you guys saw that I had that Dan's Pro Shop logo in here. We're simply just going to frame it out. And frame out, I mean like the laser will tell you where it's actually going to be. So you simply hit frame, and the laser will go to where you have it on the grid on your program. So you can tell right there, I'm a good bit off from where we need to be. So, thank goodness I'm on that little piece of wood here. We can move this to right about where it's going to be. And whenever the frame stops when it comes to an end, it always stops at the top left corner. So it kind of helps you decide where this is going to be. And then we just hit frame again until we're happy with where everything is. Now this is the part that can take a little bit of time and patience. You know, once you etch this thing, it's etched for eternity. This is kind of like gluing PVC together. You get one shot at it. So if you're unhappy with your first result, sorry man, take your time and make sure you do it right on the first shot. So this is kind of like painting a car. If you need to spend 45 minutes setting up your piece to ensure that the end result is going to be good, trust me, take the time to do it correctly now. Cool guys, so I don't know, I did that frame out about 10-12 times just to make absolutely sure that it's correct. Now I'll bring you over here before I hit the go button so you can actually see what's happening. Now everything is finally ready to rock. We're good. We have our frame set. We have our Z set. I have my speed for the X and Y set at 200 millimeters per second, and I have the power maxed out at 100% because we just want to really dig into this thing. The only thing left to do is hit that start button. Let's see what she got. Now guys, you see this bright white light here, and you can kind of hear it crispy a little bit. If it honestly sounds like whenever you're starting an arc with a welder, and honestly it smells the same too. But you guys will know immediately if you have your Z height set correctly, because you will not get this bright white light. If that doesn't happen, that means that your Z is out and you got to stop and readjust for that. I'll go ahead and put the mic down there so you don't have to listen to me and you can hear this thing running. So you guys see what I mean about that like fry and baking sound? This is quite literally just creating an arc like a welder would. It's just doing it with an infrared laser. So we are quite literally removing or etching material onto a solid metal. In this case, a chrome plated wrench. Dude, I'm telling you, my entire tool collection, obviously over a course of time, everything is going to have my name on it. This is just so cool, and it comes out amazingly professional. Like, it looks like it was bought right off the Snap-on truck this way. I can't tell you guys how cool this is. Now, if you guys saw the previous video about this thing, these are not the fastest in the world. So don't plan on making a production team with this. It does take a little bit of time. So guys, that wraps up this print. Like I said, it's not earth-shattering in the speed of this thing, but just the fact that you can now do this crap at home, like professional quality laser etching. And just because I'm doing this on wrenches and tools and sockets and stuff, dude, that is the tip of the iceberg. It's quite literally your imagination. Whatever you want to do with this thing, you can. And not to mention, Xtool sells a bunch of accessories that go along with this thing. Like, they have like a mini rotary station. It's like the chuck on a lathe that is geared with an encoder motor that is controlled by the Lightburn programming. So you can do cylindrical or, I don't know, any kind of oval shaped spherical stuff. Like if you want to make like your own Christmas decoration ornaments and like the sides of coffee cups and whatever you want to do, it gives you that ability so it'll spin underneath the laser head. And another little cool thing I picked up here, these are risers for the legs that this thing sits on, because yes, you can change the height of the actual laser itself, but you're limited. It only goes so far. So if you need to physically raise this thing, like, you don't have to do it all janky and set this thing up on bricks. I mean, you can if you want to, but like I mentioned, having your workpiece perfectly flat and parallel with the bottom of the laser is critical. So they have these fancy machined aluminum legs that screw right into the bottom of the factory legs. And you can stack as many of these things together as you want. You can have this thing 6 feet off the table if you want to. But these are cool. I'll put a link for all this stuff down in the description. Go ahead and yank this thing out of here. Man, I'm impressed with this every time. I'll show you guys. Check this out, guys. Look at that. Professional laser etched Dan's Pro Shop into a 10mm wrench. Now, you guys can see here, there's a little bit of charring going on. Let's take a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on a microfiber and clean that right up. We'll go ahead and take our finished workpiece here. A little bit of rubbing alcohol. Check that out. There is our finished product. How awesome is this? And it's a legit laser etching. Like, this isn't going to come off. This thing will rattle around in your toolbox for the next 20 years, and that thing will still be there. I cannot begin to tell you guys how absolutely awesome this is and how many doors this just opened for me and my creativity, if you will. But you know what's cool here, guys? This wrench that we just made is one of a limited quantity of customized Dan's Pro Shop 10mm ratcheting wrenches that's going to be available on dansproshopLTD.com. That's right, a little bit of a sales pitch here. You guys can get yourself a piece of history. And let's be honest, who doesn't need an extra 10mm wrench laying around? But you can get a customized, laser-etched Dan's Pro Shop 10mm wrench by yours truly. And while you're there, check out the rest of the site. Hats, t-shirts, stickers, koozies, whatever you want. And now, custom wrenches. But if you're interested in one of these things, don't lollygag. Like I said, limited quantity. Because, like I mentioned earlier, it's not the fastest thing in the world. So, production is limited. And not to mention that they're wrenches. They cost money. So, if you guys are interested in one of these things, you better head over there right quick and grab them up. But enough about me, the king of the show. The Xtool IR infrared laser module for the D1 Pro. This thing is so cool, and I know I'm just going to laser etch absolutely everything in the shop. It's just so cool, and the versatility with this thing, not to mention all the attachments and stuff like these leg risers and that rotary station that's available with this thing. And like I mentioned earlier, if you guys still just have the OE head on this thing, go ahead and do yourself some rigging up with this air system. Like I said, dude, it absolutely changes everything. You can cut faster, you can cut cleaner. It's just so cool. Don't worry, I will link all this stuff in the description, including this fancy new IR module head. So the original D1 Pro, just the way it comes with everything, the IR head, the power block that comes with it, the parts to do this stuff on your own if you choose to. But dude, I cannot tell you how awesome this is. And if you guys really are interested, please check out all the links in the description because this can really change the way that you do things. So don't forget to head on over to dansproshopLTD.com and grab your custom wrenches. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and we will see you next time.